So transplanting, sometimes your poison ivy is in an area and you've got plants that you want to save. In this client's case, he had just planted these beautiful, and they are really nice raspberry bushes last year. He's like, they didn't do anything, probably because they got choked out. But I said, do you want me to, it's right your way, would you like me to try to get them out for you so we can transplant them? He said, yeah, if you could, that would be great. Now, he's a young guy, he's never transplanted something before, so he went over the basics, but what I explained to him is, I said, because even if we get all this poison out of here, or ivy out of here, there's still gonna be rhizomes. And it's important that we transplant, we only transplant raspberries, and we don't transplant poison ivy. Now typically, when you transplant something, you want to try to keep the root ball, you want to dig out nice and far around it, keep the root ball nice and intact. It's not really a luxury. I start there, but when I am transplanting, we're trying to actually make sure that we're not transplanting any ivy. I'm still gonna dig out nice and far around it so I don't damage any of that root ball, those main roots in there. But then I'm going to kind of comb through with my fingers gently to make sure that I'm only transplanting raspberry plants. Now, he was asking why these didn't do well. I said they could have gotten choked out, but once I got my hands in the soil and I felt how this is this is such clay soil, which here in Michigan, we do have a lot of clay, but it's usually sandy, at least on top. Raspberries like a nice acidic, more acidic, sandy, well-draining soil. So right now, everyone is probably, the hardcore gardeners out there are probably cringing watching me do this. But what I have ready for it over here, I've already set up this little Lowe's bucket for when it's time, once I can kind of go through here and make sure I don't have any ivy. In this bucket, I've got just a solution of some water, some native soil, and some mushroom compost. And the mycorrhiza in there will help right away. That's gonna help the roots be like, oh, thank God. So what I'm looking for, very delicately, not to destroy any roots, are the poison ivy vine over here. And I'm being very careful to support the stem. Fortunately, I'm not seeing any. And this soil is so compacted. So what we're gonna do, I did right in there, and right now this is just it's mainly water. I would say it's filled up to here with water, maybe 1.5 cups of that mushroom compost. Can you see in there?
Yeah.
Thank you. And the native soil that's still in there. And I'm gonna just let that sit in there while we're digging everything out, just to kind of give it a drink as relaxation. Like a saving gas. I think that's all of them, just the 3. And then because this soil, specifically for this client, because this soil is so dense and compacted, it needs organic material to give these plants a chance. I did recommend he put them in a raised bed. We're just gonna do a basic a poor man's raised bed, as I call it, which is bricks and a piece of cardboard underneath, and then you put your stuff on top. But what I'm going to, I'm setting aside here, this is his little bag, these bags here, this is the bag of some native soil. Again, being very careful, I picked a spot that was close enough but away from the ivy to give him some of that, and I made sure to add some of that good leaf mulch. It's close. That was it's not. It's a box elder. Made sure to add in some leaf mulch in there from that top, but trying to give him as much of that sandy soil. Also going to mix in some regular, just all-purpose sand, and I'm going to set him up with some worm castings and some organic fertilizers to get him going. But be very careful. When you do plant this, you're going to want to watch it for that first season. Any signs of poison ivy, which this will be particularly challenging because they both have leaves of 3, but he and I talked for a long time about the differences. But keep an eye on it for that first year. If you see anything at all that looks like poison ivy, very carefully, very delicately, wearing NITRILE gloves. Again, I repeat, wearing NITRILE gloves. Do not do this with your bare hands. Just don't be that guy. Very delicately loosen the soil and just thread as literally as if you were like to pull a thread out of, you know, a pillowcase. Pull that thread out of anything that's poison ivy. And it's usually it's my general, it's my always rule of thumb is it's usually, you'll be able to see a difference between the roots that belong to these guys and the roots that belong to the devil. If you have any questions, or you've had any other success transplanting out of a whole massive mess of poison ivy, please leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, I'll catch you next time. Take care.